As the world returns back to normal from the COVID lockdowns, I can't help but think that this year's missions trip, 2023, was the best one yet, and I look forward in sharing with you what I experienced and how it turned out. I started my trek out from San Francisco and flew to Washington, D.C. From D.C., I flew over the Atlantic, through Europe, and landed into Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And from there, I flew south to Lilongwe, which is the capital city of Malawi. Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world. It is a small country, and it is in the lower third of Africa. After being picked up at the airport, we wasted no time in getting supplies ready for this year's missions trip. Collecting supplies for this trip was different in that it was not just for H2O team members, but for another group made up of 20 doctors and 10 dentists known as the Butterfly Collaborative. In getting ready to support the medical team, we needed to get our dollars put into kwacha. You gotcha have a lot of kwacha. And so, as you can see, that's a lot of kwacha there. But it's 1,000 kwacha to $1, so it's not so impressive, that big pile of cash. It actually takes care of quite a bit of things. We had to buy food for 30 people and our own staff. We had to rent trucks for shipping. We had to bring all the luggage. We had buses that we had to rent. All this stuff adds up in 1 week. The H2O team left for Nkhotakota, which is a 4-hour drive from Lilongwe. The last half of the drive were some of the worst roads I've ever been on due to a cyclone that ravaged the area 9 months earlier. We finally saw our exit to the H2O village, where we drove towards Lake Malawi, ending at our destination. We had only 1 day to get the buildings ready for our medical team, so we wasted no time in getting back to work. Luckily, we had a crew of local students in the school that we support, St. Michael's School. To our relief, the shipping container was delivered just 1 day before our medical team was to arrive. This container was shipped from California 8 months earlier with the expectation of arriving a month early. I'm actually surprised it made it, looking at the condition of the tires. Before placing the container on a permanent foundation, we had to empty out that container so what was inside did not shift around when the crane lifted it up. Our local crew was so helpful. They brought all the stuff out and piled it up against one of the buildings. Now it was showtime. Time to see this crane lift this big container up and place it on its permanent foundation. While the container was being placed, the H2O team worked with the local doctor and his staff in the recently opened H2O clinic, organizing medical supplies from the container before our incoming medical team's arrival. In addition, we cleaned out rooms and sanitized them and filled them with medical equipment. The power was a little bit of a concern. We had to modify some plugs because we didn't have the right plugs for the right outlets. Local staff member, Blessings, came on the scene and organized everyone for power distribution. He set up custom-made cables, had 4 generators, had to put those together, make those work, get those working again. They came off of the container, and we didn't even know if they would work at the time we had them shipped. But all worked well. We also took advantage of solar power generators. The moment of truth, the medical team has arrived. Boy, we were so excited to work with them. They unpacked their luggage and supplies, met us at the lodge restaurant for lunch, and headed down to the village to start their work. The dental team played on a loop How to Brush Your Teeth in an animated fashion. It was a hit with the kids. Meanwhile, in pediatrics, medication was being divvied up and sanctioned out. Malaria meds and everything else. There was a steady flow of patients throughout each day, and the lines outside never let up. We took advantage of the local students that spoke English. They served as translators and were a lifesaver many times. The yellow clinic building was the first point of entry, where triage was done, and from there they were assigned to wherever they had to go: dental, gynecology, basic practice, and pediatrics, to name a few. This building was filled to its max from morning to evening, Monday through Friday. Did you know there are only 37 dentists in all of Malawi? So having dentists at this clinic was a very, very big deal, and people drove from all over, like 4 and 5 hours away, just to be seen. Each day, the team decided to eat lunch there at the clinic, and so we had a very quick stop, we ate, and we're back to work. Boy, this team worked very hard. The crowds never let up. Apparently, there was an advertisement on the radio, and people from all over kept pouring in the whole entire week. There were actually 4,000 people that were taken care of in this short week. At one point, I had heard that there were 3 children that either died or were near death when their malaria had entered their brain area, causing them to go into seizures, and the team quickly resuscitated them back to life using some life-saving injections. Imagine the difference that made for those 3 families. Another good accomplishment this week was creating medical records for each patient and then digitizing them for future use. I can't help but be proud of the accomplishments done this week for this community made up of farmers and fishermen. This is one of the most underprivileged, underserved people groups in the world. It was just really nice to see this group get some basic support. It was also enjoyable to see many of the team members interacting on a personal basis with the locals. At one point, the locals brought us one of our extra beds we needed at the lodge. While we as a group enjoyed our meal, part of the H2O team was outside the lodge showing movies to many of the villagers. We created Sunday school animated stories dubbed into the local language, Chichewa, and showed several episodes of The Chosen, which we had added subtitles to. At the end of the week, the Big Friday Surf Contest was upon us. The morning started out very promising with big waves, as if it were an ocean. But it's a lake. We set up the boards, the sound system, the judges' quarters. We were ready for an amazing day. The local kids were so excited they were already collecting early around the table. We hired 7 local fishermen to be our pushers, since the waves wound up being quite small at the time of the contest. We organized the contestants in 2 groups, boys and girls. With a 1 to 2 minute lesson in surfing, they were off and ready. I have to hand it to each of these contestants. They were actually able to surf waves that didn't exist. Now that is a new talent I have not seen. Of course, we have Patty Brady, lifelong surfer, and judge of the Malawi Championship Surfing, with his top judge, Vanessa, local Malawian. We handed out medals and awards, and first place for boys and first place for girls was a new surfboard. The ceremony, the contest, just the fun, the free give-outs, this is all for goodwill with this village. This brings the village the love of Christ, and this is an icebreaker, and that's why we do it. Everybody likes free t-shirts, especially when they're launched in the air like a cannonball. After that long day of work and play, we took a breath sat back and just reflected on what was accomplished this week. We then went to a safari where we could really unwind and really decompress after the week of work that was done. We went to the Muvu Reserve. We saw a lot of the Big 10. We saw elephants, saw alligators, hippos, baboons, and many others. It was the time for the teams to get together and really enjoy each other. I got to learn about so many people and their lives, and it was just really a blessing to hang out with like-minded people. As I look back on the week of work that we had accomplished as a team, I can't help but thank God for His faithfulness. For overall, it was a very smooth week. Things worked, and we accomplished a lot of things with not a lot of resources. I look back at the relationships made, the village, and just the beauty of this area. I can't wait to come back someday. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope someday that you will be able to join us as well.